Two things are true regarding Chris Matthews. Number one, he's obsessed with Tip O'Neill. It's all he seems to talk about. Number two, he has great disdain for Bernie Sanders, and that was certainly clear during a recent segment on Morning Joe. Take a look.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this field. I think they got to find a candidate for president that could beat Trump.
And you don't think anybody in this field
I'm
can
looking.
beat Trump?
I'm still looking.
Still looking.
What's the problem?
Obvious problems. They're all problems. Bernie Sanders is not going to be president of the United States. Okay? I went back to the 72 race. I was a young volunteer for the DNC. I was working for a senator from Utah at the time. I've got to tell you, it feels a lot like it. A lot of giddiness, a lot of excitement, a thrill about this guy.
You're saying a lot like McGovern?
Well, exactly, because he was very excited. He excited the party, completely blew away a really good candidate like Muskie, a really good guy. He blew him right out of the water because he had some issues.
So those are some of his thoughts. I want to go to the next video real quick and then we'll discuss.
Bernie's going to ride high, and he's finally going to get scrutiny about his whole life, his ideology, his whole life, who did he root for all his life? Who is this guy ideologically? It's not just the nice, good stuff like healthcare. Why does he say the stuff he does about Maduro and people like that? Why does he say Denmark one week and then somebody else? I mean, people got to figure out who the guy is.
Yeah.
I think I know because I've dealt with these guys most of my adult life. They're usually the guys at the card tables at an war rally. There'll be there some old guy with some old literature from this socialist party to that, trying to sell it, trying to latch on to the anti-war movement. There's always guys like that, and they're usually, as Howard Fine once said, non-negotiable demands. Yelling up at the administration building during the anti-war movement. I know him, but I think the country's going to get to know him. I think we got a problem. We'll see.
I know this guy. He's coming after my taxes. He's coming after my money. He's an anti-war movement. I know these guys. I mean, come on, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. I mean, he has a significant lead over other Democratic candidates. They keep pretending like the thing that they're most concerned about is that he's unelectable, when in reality, he has an economic message that resonates across the board, regardless of political ideology. They don't want him to be the Democratic nominee. And despite their best efforts to destroy his chances, he persists. He has seen a rise in the polls and he will continue to see a rise in the polls. Sorry, Chris Matthews, just be honest with your audience. You're worried about paying more in taxes. You're worried about being irrelevant, even though at this point in your career, you should be irrelevant.
So he went back to 1972 for that example, which they always do. Like, oh, did you know about 1972? Yeah, we all know about 1972. Chris, I don't know if you know this. There's this thing called the internet, and things have changed a little bit. So number one, it allows us to look up 1972 if we didn't know it, okay? And number two, it's all of your decades old analogies and metaphors don't work anymore. It's a totally different world. Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. Dude, at the time, there's no internet. Yes, it's local because everybody's like, oh, what did the local papers say? Now all the local papers are out of business. Oh, well, you know what Tip O'Neill said in the year 1732? I don't care. Okay, well, if you have these radical candidates, that's not an establishment figure, where they're unelectable. Well, let me go back to an ancient election as well. You going back to 72? I'll go all the way back to 2016, the last election, where the candidate you declared unelectable, Donald Trump, got elected. How many times did you say that on air, Chris? Oh, there's no way Trump can win. And you and all your buddies, to be fair to Chris Matthews, it isn't personal. It's all of them. There's no way Donald Trump can win. There's no way Donald Trump can win. And we here, even though we despise the man, said he could win. We were right, you were wrong. Did you ever learn anything from that? No, you told us Hillary Clinton was the most electable person ever, yet she didn't get elected. Now when we point that out, you get so offended. But my God, the important thing here is to actually pick someone who could beat Donald Trump. You're like, that's right, we need someone like Hillary Clinton. But she didn't get elected. We need someone that is not the same. We need someone who is different that could beat Donald Trump. And Donald Trump won, why? Because of fake populism. In real populism beats fake populism. Establishment ass-hattery does not beat populism. We just saw it. You don't have to go back to 72. So, and he's like, I know who this guy is. What does that mean? What does that mean? I know who this guy is. And he said, finally, we're gonna do scrutiny of Bernie Sanders.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
Thank you for bringing that up because that was one of the things I wanted to comment on, but he said so many ridiculous things in that clip that I forgot about that. So he's been facing scrutiny since 2016, nonstop. It doesn't end. I mean, while the Democrats keep claiming that they care about party unity, you have Hillary Clinton still lying about him. Last Friday, she was on a podcast completely lying about Bernie Sanders, referring to him as undemocratic, as not doing enough for party unity back in 2016, even as he rallied in 39 to 40 different rallies on her behalf to help her get elected. I mean, come on. All he gets is scrutiny. Oh, he's a socialist, he's unelectable. They go, to his political affiliation. He's not a registered Democrat in Vermont. I mean, how much more do they want? I mean, all they do is go after him.
No, they're so blinded. They're like, no, we need to have good electable candidates. Like the person sitting next to me, Claire McCaskill. Claire, tell us how you won the last election. Oh, right, you lost the last election by being an establishment candidate in Missouri. And we all said you were an awesome candidate and we were all wrong. But you know what? We get paid millions of dollars every single year to be wrong.
That's right.
Because we're not actually trying to bring you news, we're trying to bring you propaganda about how you have to pick the person who's gonna give us the tax cuts.
It's incredible how people who identify as Democrats are fighting so hard to destroy the front runner. And again, it's not just because I like Bernie Sanders, I like his policies. I mean, even if you take a step back and you put your own biases aside, who in this race has an economic message, an economic populist message that resonates across the board? Why is it that so many people switched parties and voted for Trump in the last election? Because he was this fake populist who pretended like he cared about bringing jobs back to America, who pretended like he cared about those who had been neglected by previous administrations. Now you have someone who doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, and that's Bernie Sanders. He has a long record that we can look at thanks to the internet and confirm that he's not some phony, someone who's actually concerned about the well-being of Americans. That's Bernie Sanders. That's why he resonates with so many people. Now, weirdly enough, I just want to juxtapose what Chris Matthews said to what another Bernie hater had to say, Bill Maher. Recently, Bill Maher said something about Bernie Sanders that was shocking to me, something that I already recognized, I already knew about, but hearing it from someone who's been so critical of Bernie was fascinating. Now, what you're about to see is Bill Maher saying something that's 100% correct about Bernie Sanders, and I want to dissect it further after we watch. Take a look.
I like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, but I feel mostly, or have said that, somebody like Pete or Amy Klobuchar could win more easily. But I tell you why Bernie Sanders is attractive to me now, because he's the only Democrat who, like Trump, has an army. Who, when it gets to this other level, he's got a bunch of bad who will get in the streets.
What he's trying to say there is, look, Bernie Sanders has a loyal following. And they will fight, they will stop at nothing. They will fight for him, they will do what it takes to get him elected. And there's something powerful about that, because while I don't like drawing any type of similarities between Trump and Bernie, they're obviously very different people. The one thing that I do see in terms of a similarity is that both Trump and Bernie do have a very loyal following. And there was a recent poll done, we shared it on the show, that showed that out of all of the Democratic candidates, Bernie Sanders has voters who are sticking by his side. They're not, wavering in any way. And I thought it was interesting that Bill Maher brought that up. And so when they talk about electability, Bernie Sanders doesn't have fair weather fans. He has ardent supporters who will fight by his side. And it's not just about this election. You need supporters like that who will help you get things done once you're elected.
The rest of the candidates on the Democratic side have no energy. So how are they gonna get people to volunteer for them? How are they gonna get people to make sure they're talking to their family and friends and dragging them to the polls and making sure they vote, et cetera? That's how you win elections. But these people on cable news have no earthly idea. You know what's interesting is Donald Trump Jr. and Ben Shapiro within the last 24 hours said, don't underestimate Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And so like we warned about Trump, now you got Shapiro warning about Sanders from his side, because they're seeing there's actual electricity, there's energy, there's masses of people who are highly motivated to get this person to win.
Yep.
That's how you win elections. That's what makes you electable, you morons on cable news.
But the problem is, it's not that they see him as unelectable. I think that the reality is they see him as very electable, and that's what concerns them the most. And just to give you some numbers to back up what you were just saying, in a speech Saturday night, Sanders said that his canvassers had knocked on more than 500,000 doors in Iowa this year.
But so did Delaney's. Oh no, that's right, they did.
Who?
Exactly. Okay, so now, guys, you know what the press is trying to do now? I mean, the idea that Bernie didn't get scrutiny is hilarious. I showed you guys at the time when he announced this time around, Washington Post ran 4 columns that day attacking him. Not one that was positive, all 4 attacking him. But my favorite was one saying that his crowd sizes will diminish and he'll be like a one-hit wonder. I reposted that over the weekend next to a reporter showing a giant crowd for Bernie in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, okay? What happened to diminishing crowds? Are you guys ever going to admit how wrong your analysis is? How you hire people on purpose who don't care about facts at all, but drive an agenda. Speaking of that agenda, so I started getting calls from reporters. You know what they're doing now? And you might have seen some of those articles now. Oh, Bernie Sanders supporters are online are a real problem. You know, they raise their voice sometimes, and it's unacceptable. It's against civility. Oh, I see. You're allowed to control the entire media and write negative article after negative article. Have Chris Matthews go and attack Bernie Sanders, have everybody attack Bernie Sanders 24/7 on every cable station, every one of them, right? But if someone says something on social media, how dare you, put him down, put him down. Don't let anyone ever say something that we have not agreed to, because that would not manufacture consent. Finally, what you just saw from Chris Matthews is not on Fox News. That's on MSNBC, what Washington considers the left-wing channel. Hilarious.
Don't miss your chance to win a trip to Los Angeles and have dinner with Cenk, John, and me. Just head to tyt.com/dinnerinla to register to win. Sign up for a free Aspirations spend and save account. Then you just register your eligibility and swipe your Aspiration card daily on purchases to gain entries. Not only are you entering to win a trip to Los Angeles and dinner with TYT hosts, you're also not depositing your hard-earned money into fossil fuel exploration or production. As a friendly reminder, even if you already have an Aspiration account, you must still register for eligibility into the sweepstakes.